Frontline Prosecutor with us, Nathan Harter. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing today?
Well, it's a happy snowy Thursday to you.
Happy Thursday anyway.
Yeah. The snow. Why? Why do we have the snow?
I don't know. God's got a plan, I guess, and it must involve more snow.
We're just going to keep living it.
Yep.
That's the only
keep
choice
my
we
scraper,
have.
Keep my brush and scraper in the car, and we'll see where we go.
That's right. So it's been, you wrapped up 25 numbers, pretty consistent, really.
Yeah, a little bit down compared to previous years, but a little higher than last year. We ended up filing 1,120 cases last year. We closed 945, which was a lot lower than I expected. I like to see those numbers sort of equaling each other or being really approximating each other. And being 175 cases fewer closed than opened, we're going to have to sort of look at that and say, hey, what do we need to do to bring those numbers into parity there? I don't think it dramatically affects the criminal justice system in Decatur County unless we do that year after year after year, and then there might be something like a backlog. I wouldn't say that exists right now to the detriment of the people of Decatur County or anything like that.
Any attribution to why that number isn't more equal at this point, or just they just didn't get completed?
I don't know the answer to that, and that's part of what I'm going to have to explore with my team. I don't know if we just had things pending longer. If we didn't really have fewer jury trials. We certainly set up for a bunch of them. We had a couple resolve at the last minute that didn't actually get to a jury, that we had prepared as though we were taking it to a jury. And sometimes those take a little longer, but you wouldn't think with the small number of those that it would have 170 cases worth of delay. So,
and when we talk about those two numbers, just to clarify for people that may
sure.
not, it's the amount closed means done, resolved,
sentenced,
compared to what the filed was.
Correct. And so, yeah, we're just literally measuring the day that we file the case is considered open, and then the day that it is closed and sentenced, that person's case then is considered closed. If they were to commit a probation violation, it would reopen it, but that doesn't really go into these metrics. So it's kind of a large-scale overview of when a case comes in and when we're done dealing with it. There are lots of other measuring points along the way that we could look at that might help us see where the delays are, like the amount of time from when the charge is filed to when we have discovery and a proposed plea agreement out to defense counsel. And if that's taking 3 months instead of 2 months, then that tells us we've got a little bit of a gap there. So we may have to look at some more metrics to help pin that down, but right now I don't have that. I don't have that sorted because I'm just sort of seeing this data for the first time as I was preparing for this.
Absolutely.
And it tells me we're going to go back and retool and say, hey, why do we think that is?
We have kicked off the beginning of the year. How's that gone so far?
So surprisingly, given the numbers I just gave you, we sort of have the inverse happening in January. We filed 69 cases and we closed 101. So we closed 32 more cases than we opened. Maybe we're back on the right track and I don't need to change anything. And so we'll continue to monitor that as I come in for these monthly meetings. I'm grateful for the opportunity to talk to the public and be accountable to them. In the same way that we try to hold people accountable, it's important for us to be accountable, and these metrics help us do that.
And I'm not in your world, so from my assumption, maybe just timing. Maybe just timing is why the numbers seemed off and then have reversed in January?
Could be. There's some of that. We know with absolute certainty, although it's not measured, that things slow down around the holidays. You start with Thanksgiving and then into Christmas, and defendants don't want to go to jail, or they need to save up a little money to make restitution to a victim, and sometimes, to be completely honest, jurors don't want to come in and do jury trials in December. If I said December 15th, you've got to come in for 3 days and do a jury trial, generally speaking, that's a no-go. And so there is that 6-week window at the end of the year where we're doing a lot of other work, but closing cases would not be as likely to happen, I guess. And then January, we're off to the races, and here we go. So maybe that does account for it.
Here we go. We're fully into 26 already.
It is crazy. February.
It is. I know. All of a sudden we're in February.
Right.
And it's ticking by. So.
Yep.
Looking at the jail population.
Yeah, so we're down to 102 in custody right now, and that is, for those of you paying attention at home, between 15 and 25 lower than the last several months we've been in. I guess, well, I can attribute some of that. If we skip down to my third bullet point there, we have roughly 16 people in the jail that are housed on behalf of the Department of Corrections. So these are people who have been sentenced, they're going to prison, we're waiting on prison to come get them and put them into the prison system instead of holding them locally. That number's cut in half. The last time I was in here, it was 32 or 33, and that's been the number for a long time, is in the 30s or 40s. And I've sort of asked people to stay tuned to this space so that we could report back as the Department of Corrections started coming to get those inmates more rapidly and sort of freed up the bottleneck on their end. And it looks like that's starting to happen. So there's 15 or 16 there that were in our jail that are not now because they're at the DOC. And that probably helps account for some of that difference in population at the jail.
Yeah. So it looks like maybe from that state level things are starting to fingers crossed.
Cross your fingers, knock on wood. That is hopefully where we're gonna see that trend line.
Because this has been a pretty long period of time that this has been lagging.
It's been over a year. And there were lots of question marks about why that was and how the money flows and how it might be cheaper for the DOC to pay us to house them than it is for them to house them themselves. But there's no sense in blaming when the problem is resolving itself. So it does seem like it's going the right direction. Again, stay tuned here. I'm going to continue to report back on this as I see it when we come in.
All right. We still have we have 2 inmates housed out of county.
Yes, and I just want to highlight that's the same number as last time. It continues to be in that 1 to 4 range for about a year now, and that's a really positive thing. Before we built the current jail, we were paying for many inmates at $35 or more a day to be housed in other people's jails, other counties' jails, and that money was just hemorrhaging out. And so to only have those 2 is pretty common, pretty typical. It's sort of, we want to be able to do that for folks who are a medical risk and need to be at the Department of Corrections because they have better medical facilities that they can handle those people's issues. Or sometimes it's, if you'll forgive me, like a Hatfield and McCoy sort of thing where like, look, we just can't house this person here because they've got too many relationships where they're going to get jumped in the jail or they're going to not get along well with the other people. And for their safety's purposes, we might move them to another jail. So that tends to be the reasons why we would do that. And to only have 2 is pretty good number at this point.
And it's been very consistent. So
yes, very consistent. Nothing new. No news is good news at this point.
That's right. You do have a resolution there to talk about.
Yeah, like I said, January we closed a bunch of cases, and as I was reviewing those for today's session, we got a lot of misdemeanors closed and a lot of lower level felonies, level 6 felonies resolved. Not a whole lot in terms of major felonies. So the biggest one that I wanted to highlight, there's a defendant named Clinton Cole Johnson Jr., and Mr. Johnson is a registered sex offender, and he failed to register. It was not the first time that he had failed to register. And so he's got his ticket punched. It's one of the things we've said is that this is a very welcoming community for people who will play by the rules. And if you won't play by the rules, then we're not a very welcoming community. And so I wanted to report back. That's the kind of crime I think this community expects us to punish, and punish fairly severely. Mr. Johnson did end up getting a prison sentence of 4 years for failing to register the way he was supposed to under the law. And so I was happy is the wrong word. Proud of my team and glad that the system works and that we were able to hold Mr. Johnson accountable.
I think too, and I obviously out in my other world of life, I hear a lot of stories and interactions, and I think it's fair to say, and you have said several times, whether it be child support or registering, or there's opportunity, and there you can make the right choice and do the right thing and be quite successful. You just have to do the right thing.
It can be that simple. And, you know, that when we resolve these cases on the front end, where somebody is given an opportunity to not be in prison, but to be in the community and have court community supervision through court services, probation, home detention, and so on, or to be on none of those but still have to register, they're being given a gift. And in exchange for being given that gift, they just have to follow the rules. Pay your child support, or register where you're living and your vehicles, carry your identification with you. It's a gift in lieu of going to prison. And so when people don't follow those rules, I think this community expects us to hold them accountable and say, well, then you don't get the privilege of being out here and free anymore. And I will say, especially as concerns probation revocations, my chief deputy, Doug Brown, has been sort of the point person on all petitions to revoke. And my goodness, he has been extraordinarily no-nonsense about that. If we've given you grace, if you've gotten probation, and you're not following the rules, then you can go to prison. You don't need to be here if you can't just follow the basic rules. And, your listeners may or may not know, and over the years, I suspect I've said this before, even on the air, the word probation comes from the same root word as to prove. And so when you were put on probation to prove yourself. And if you prove that you are not able to follow the rules while on probation, then you have proven everything we need to know about whether you belong free in our society. And it's that simple. So Mr. Brown has been extraordinarily fair but tough-minded about probation revocations in particular, and I'm happy that that's the case.
Yes. It's like I said, there's equal opportunity and fair chances. You just got to do what you're supposed to do.
That's the goal.
And if you have, we've talked about this before too, but if you're having trouble paying, whether child support or something else, like call and make the contact, right?
100%. Especially in the child support context, we have 2 caseworkers, plus Nancy in our office, all of whom are eager to work with people, and with a great frequency. When somebody calls in and says, I'm having trouble doing this, but I can do that. I can't do X, but I can do Y. I'll say, okay, we'll work with you. And they're not sending those cases over for criminal prosecution unless they're having massive noncompliance or non-communication. And so we do ask, just stay in touch. For the child support cases in particular, keep us posted on where you're working, how it's going, your job search process. Sometimes we have resources we can help. And frankly, I have asked the people in my office to have big hearts and to be willing to set them aside when they have to in order to be tough. Mm-hmm. So yes, there are basic rules. We want people to follow them. And if they can't, we're going to hold them accountable.
That's right. And communication, key.
Communication, very important.
That's right. Looking at your office, you have added a new intern.
We have, and you're going to get to meet Carson Bagelman. She is a second-year law student at the Indiana University Maurer School of Law in Bloomington. She's halfway through her schooling and has taken all of the requirements to become a certified legal intern. And so she registers with the state. There's special paperwork with the Supreme Court she has to file or has filed. And that renders her able to do all of the work that a deputy prosecutor could do.
Oh, nice.
In terms of signing pleadings, drafting charges, conducting hearings in court, all the way up through conducting full jury trials, as long as she has a supervisor there with her to help make sure that she's, not stepping into major ethical pitfalls or anything. We could not be more pleased with having added Carson to the team. We interviewed her about a year ago to have her work with us last summer, and it turns out we're going to get into all this again because I'm going to have her come talk to you, but just so your listeners know, the caliber of person we're bringing, there is an extraordinarily prestigious fellowship in which the law school, through a competitive process, picks a number of students and places them in law firms abroad in other countries to help see those legal systems up close, practice law internationally, and develop experience and connections all over the world. It's good for the law school, it's good for the law student, it's good for the law firms in the other countries. And as I say, it is extremely prestigious. Carson won one of those, and I'll have to have her tell you about it and the country she went to and so on. Because of that, she said, do you mind if I put my summer with you guys off for a year? And we totally understood. You have the chance to go abroad.
Hard to say no, right?
Go do that. And plus, she was not at that time eligible to be a certified legal intern. because you have to be halfway done with your schooling. So now that she's finished her schooling, she can join us and actually do a lot more with her experience with us. And so we've only had her a couple of weeks now because it's the beginning of the semester. But in a very short period of time, she's been an absolute sponge, soaking up all of this new information and the practice of law and things that they don't teach you in law school. But also her output is incredible. In very short order, she's able to churn back out to us what we need for her to be valuable to our office. So it's not just learning for her, but it's also creating value for our taxpayers here. All while doing it for academic credit instead of being paid. So
even better.
Which is great for now. In the summertime, she's committed to being with us on a continuing basis. During the summer, she won't be doing it for credit. She'll be doing it to be paid. Making the trip over from Bloomington 2 or 3 times a week this semester and 4 or 5 times a week next summer really shows her dedication. But I think we're providing a good experience for her. That's what she says anyway. And at the same time, we're getting a value back for the taxpayer and for our office. She's been an absolute rock star and very affirming of our decision to bring her on the team. I can't wait for you guys and your listeners. To meet her.
Yeah.
She's going to be, she'll be able to tell you more about where she's from and how she traveled this path to law and to Bloomington in particular, and what she sees coming for her next down the pike as she explores her career.
Very exciting. And great that Decatur County can offer that real-life experience.
We're very proud of that. Not every county does across 92 counties, 91 judicial circuits. I think about half have ever done an internship program. And it was just such a launching point for me as an intern when I was in law school that I resolved when I came to be in charge of the office in 2015 that we would have a robust internship program, that it was a way for us to pay it forward to the next generation of lawyers. It was a way for us to enrich this community. When we have potential interns who are from here, they get an edge on the thumb on the scale in the hiring process because we want to pour back into this community. And then to also benefit the office on top of that, it makes it a no-brainer in my mind. And as I reflect on the almost 30 interns we've had over the last 11 years, I'm very proud of the people that we've brought in and watching where they're going with their careers.
Had a great lineup.
Very exciting all the way around. And I can't wait to bring Carson in to meet you guys and to get familiar with your listeners. Very
good. Last thing we want to make sure and we get to a jury service. Let's talk about that.
You know, I really appreciate the chance to talk about this. I just finished a jury trial on Tuesday. It was relatively short. We went Monday and Tuesday, and we're done by the close of business on Tuesday. You know, as I hear from my colleagues around the state, one of the things that you hear is that jurors, first of all, they don't show up. They're called by the judge. There's a court order saying you will be here, delivered by a sheriff's deputy sometimes. Thou shalt arrive in court. And there are jurisdictions where they get 20 or 25% turnout from all the people summoned. And it's very hard to conduct business when you can't get enough people there to sit in those chairs and to hear the facts and evidence and render a verdict at the end. We don't have that problem here in Decatur County. We had 50 total people called in 2 panels, so 25 in the morning and 25 for the afternoon. Because we had 23 of 25 show up on the morning of the first 25, we were able to pick our jury out of that first 25 and excuse the second panel so they didn't have to come back. It is incredible that we were able to get that high of turnout, except that that's how we do it over and over and over again. Over and over, we get 85 to 95% turnout of the people in this county who receive that summons and who respond, who answer the bell, and actually come back.
That's amazing.
Serve. It's an incredible number, and that's only the first drop in the bucket, really, of what I'm hoping to say to this community, which is their service then is above expectations every time. I'm always impressed with the questions that jurors get to ask questions in Indiana. They get to write down their questions, submit them to the bailiff. The court then reads those questions if they're admissible. And I think every witness or all but one of my witnesses got questions from the jury. They were engaged. They were paying attention. They wanted to know the answers and what the truth was. And they really took the whole thing so seriously, and you could tell through those questions and just watching them and the notes they were taking. And then finally, what I'll highlight is they stayed after. Judges sometimes will invite jurors, say, you don't have to stay, you're discharged, you're allowed to leave. But if you'd like to provide feedback to the lawyers, they would love to hear from you what they did well, what they could have done better, to answer questions you might have. We had 11 out of 12 jurors stay after the jury trial on Tuesday for almost an hour, 45 minutes, I think. They stayed and asked questions and gave us feedback, told us what we could have done better and also what we did really well that we should keep doing. That level of engagement is unheard of. Decatur County over and over again has done that for me and for my team, and it makes us a better office. It also helps us feel assured that justice is being done because the jurors care and they care about doing their jobs right. And I couldn't be more pleased and more proud of this community. Every time we do one of these jury trials, I'm reminded who we do all this work for. And I wanted to make sure I said thank you to the people out there who served on that jury, who might serve in the future, and to encourage this community to continue serving well in that way. Very good. Yes, we have a community that just, they're just supportive. No matter what the cause, the concern is, it seems like they are just very much so, they just support what we do. So we thank them for that. And yeah. I couldn't be more pleased and thankful, and I'm grateful for this opportunity to say so and to report back to the public. I'm looking forward to put together next month's, and we'll see you then. We enjoy it always. You know, I didn't really have any funky questions this go around. I was waiting. I'll work on it for the next time. Fair enough. We'll see what gets triggered. So Decatur County Prosecutor Nathan Harter in with us. Coming up next, we'll have Beretta Life about 9:15 on Tree Country 1330.